Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Right. Good morning once again. For those who don't know me, I'm Henry. I'll be your MC this morning. First in the docket, we have Isaiah 58, 6 through 12, followed in close succession by Acts 16, 11 and 15. Please feel free to follow in your Bibles and to do so. Beginning with Isaiah. Is this not the fast that I chose? To loose the bonds of injustice, to undo the straps of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and bring the homeless poor into your house? When you see the naked, to cover them, and not to hide yourself from your own kin? Then your light shall break forth like the dawn, your healing shall spring up quickly, your vindicator will go before you. The glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard, and you shall call, and the Lord will answer. You shall cry for help, and he will say, Here I am. If you remove the yoke from among you, the pointing of the finger, the speaking of evil, if you offer your food to the hungry, and satisfy the needs of the afflicted, then your light shall rise Your light shall rise with darkness, and your gloom be like the noonday. The Lord will guide you continually and satisfy your needs in the parched places, and make your bones strong. And you shall be like a watered garden, like a spring of water whose waters never fail. Your ancient ruins shall be rebuilt. You shall raise up the foundations of the earth of many generations. And you shall be called the repairers of the breach, the restorer of streets to live in. And now from the Gospel from the book of Acts. We, therefore, set sail from Troas and took a straight course to Samothrace the following day to Neapolis, and from there to Philippi, which is a leading city in the Roman province of Macedonia. You following? We remained in the city for some days, and on the Sabbath day, we went outside the gate to the river, where we supposed there to be a place of prayer. And we sat down and spoke to the women who had gathered there. And there was a certain woman there named Lydia, a worshiper of God, who was listening to us. She was from the city of Thyatira and a dealer in purple cloth. The Lord opened her heart to listen eagerly to what was said by Paul. When she and her household were baptized, she urged us, saying, If you have judged me to be faithful to the Lord, come and stay at my home. And she prevailed upon us. The word of God from the people of God. Thank you to God. Would you pray with me? May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable to you, O God, my rock and my redeemer. Your ancient ruins shall be rebuilt. You shall raise up the foundations of many generations. You shall be called the repairers of the breach, the restorer of streets to live in. 2 more days. 2 more days of not talking about the elephant in the room. 2 more days of muting the TV at the endless political ads. 2 more days of spam texts and emails from former presidents filling our inbox. 2 more days of a campaign that seems to have lasted for a million years. How are you doing? How's your spirit? If yours is like mine, it's tired, worn down, weary of the endless divisive politics, and also weary of feeling like there is no longer a public space where we can talk about adult issues without worrying about losing a friend. There's a gap, you see, in modern American society between what we want to say, the truth that we wish to speak, and what we can say. What is safe to say to strangers, what we can say before someone, gasp, disagrees. And we can risk thinking less of them for their political or religious beliefs. And we know it didn't used to be this way, did it? We know we used to be able to agree to disagree. We used to be able to disagree on some issues, yes, and still come together. I remember when I was young. That's a laughing moment. I remember when I was young, we used to be one country that cared for one another. When my dad went on a mission trip with his church to repair homes after Hurricane Katrina in 2005, they forged bonds over the hammer and the nail. They did not ask whether they were Democrat or Republican, and over the trip they forged friendships for life. It gets harder every election cycle to see the good in the other side, to understand why someone could possibly vote the way they do. We have become separated from each other in information silos, and therefore no longer even have a common set of facts to agree upon. Two separate realities existing in one country. And it's so hard to navigate. So hard. And yet, that is the world we're called to minister to. That is the world that we find ourselves in this morning. That is the world we have to meet head on and become the repairers in the breach. The work of repairing it will start with us. It will start with us. It will start with a community like Central Christian Church, Waterloo, that is already adept and engaging in its own community, that already believes in being inclusive and welcoming, that already knows how to extend her hand and say good morning, and then not stop there, but also ask the all-important question, how can I help you today? You see, the way, my friends, to repair the breach is to do the exact opposite of what caused it in the first place. We have to engage in deliberate conversations on issues that matter to each other. We have to want to see each other on a deep level so we don't have to ask them, how can they vote for X and Y? We would understand them so well on such a deep level. The question would then shift to something like, I'm praying for my friend this week. And praying that they can keep working on their own grief or on the loss of their best friend to illness. When we get to know someone on a deep level, we're reminded of their humanity. We're reminded of their humanity. That no matter how different they seem from us, that they too are a beloved child of God. We can hold to our values and to our truths and still have a beautiful relationship with someone else. All right, honesty time. I had to learn that part the hard way. I'm a city kid, raised in suburban Atlanta to two pretty progressive pastors. I was pretty insulated growing up and did not know or really want to know many people of the opposite political persuasion. I was certain growing up that I was right about everything. And maybe I was. But in my 20s, I met a lot of amazing people who believed or grew up in different environments than my own. I met my wife, a child of Eastern North Carolina, whose entire family voted differently than my own. She had her own journey away from one world into another. That's not my story to tell. What I can attest to this morning is that where I thought I would find opposition and discord, I found welcome. Where I thought I would be rejected, I was received with affirmation. Now, we argue fiercely around election times. My mother-in-law and I love to go back and forth. But when I was alone after the loss of my dad last year, it was my mother-in-law who prayed over me and reminded me that he would always be close by. When we open ourselves up, God connects and heals parts of us that we do not even know are broken. When we open up, we can let the world in. It worked for Lydia. It worked for Lydia. In our scriptures this morning, Lydia elects to worship in Philippi at a public space of prayer. She chooses to listen to Paul's message, and then, already being a believer, brings her whole family to be baptized. Lydia then prevails upon Paul to come to her home and spend more time. She chooses to engage in deliberate time. I'll say that again. Lydia chooses to engage in deliberate time. Lydia was already powerful, a dealer in purple cloth, an early entrepreneur, and a self-starter in her own part of Greece. And she goes down in history now as a major female figure of esteem in our Bible. Lydia listened and then extended an invitation. Lydia listened and then extended an invitation. What does it feel like to be seen and known? Not dehumanized or hated for who you are. What does it mean to look someone in the eyes and say, I see you? I see you. What is our calling in life? What is our calling in life? We heard read earlier from Isaiah, is this not the fast that I choose? To loose the bonds of injustice, to undo the straps of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and bring the homeless poor into your house? That is big work. That's a big work, this calling. It needs a group of people to accomplish it, not just one person. It needs a group of people with a common goal in a city like, Waterloo, in one space. It requires organization and a common drive. It might take a church. It might take a church. How are you doing? How's your spirit? Has anyone ever tried to carry those heavy tables in the fellowship hall? You know those ones that are like 20 feet long and weigh about 100 pounds? Why do we even have those tables, by the way? If you have tried, you know that alone that weight is pretty hard to bear. It's heavy. You have to sort of dragging it on the carpet until someone takes pity on you. Maybe that's just me. But together, when we lift it with 2 or 3 people, the table moves. It flies across the carpet, across the floor to where it has to go. Ministry is like that. Ministry is like that. It takes all of us together to accomplish big things. It takes all of us together to extend a hand and listen to one another. It takes all of us together to create a space where people can be and feel like they're heard and can be themselves. It takes all of us together to do the hard things and to repair what has been broken. Your ancient ruins shall be rebuilt. You shall raise up the foundations of many generations. You shall be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of the streets to live in. We don't have to agree on everything to move that table. We don't have to know everything about someone else to work together. But at the end of a hard day of moving tables, after we built that house or staffed that pantry, after we visited the imprisoned or the sick, at the end of the day, we'll gather together and we'll sit, my friends, in fulfilled silence. We'll look each other in the eyes again. We'll pray together as God's people, restored and found, and we'll be one.